Let the shameful wall of exclusion finally come tumbling down.
Hi, my name is Christy and I work for Martin Brothers Consulting Services. I'm going to go over with you a few of the basics on how to survey an accessible parking stall. First, you want to make sure that you have a checklist built for the applicable standards of the site you'll be surveying. So on my phone here, I have a checklist of certain items that I will be taking measurements of. For this space, we have a van accessible parking stall, and I have some standards that I will be measuring based off of those code references. First, I'm going to start with the width of the space. Because this is a van accessible space, I can have either a 9-foot wide parking space with an 8-foot wide access aisle, or I can have a 12-foot wide parking space with a 5-foot wide access aisle. So first I'm going to take a measurement center line to center line. And right here we have 108 inches exactly for this parking space, so it is compliant.
Look at that. Whoops.
Oops.
Dropping tapes is part of the job.
The next thing I'm going to measure is the width of the access aisle. Now, because I have a 9-foot wide van accessible parking space, I will need an 8-foot wide accessible access aisle. And this site has a 10-foot wide access aisle, which is plenty. And of course, again, I'm measuring center line to center line.
All right, what's next?
Next, we're gonna do the length of the space and access aisle. I like to do the length right along the access aisle line that butts up against the parking space, so that you can basically do one measurement and for both spaces. This is also, you want to make sure that you're using the right size tape measure. This one is our 16-foot, which is great for handling because they don't get too heavy, but you'll want to use at least a 25-foot tape for the length. For the applicable standards that we're using on this site, the length of the parking space and the access aisle must be 18 feet, so we're checking that. And this one is very long as well. We have almost 19 feet, and so this one definitely is compliant by over a foot.
Very good.
The next thing that we're going to be checking according to our checklist. So the next thing we're going to measure is the vertical clearance. If you see here, there is...
I think we're good on that one.
Yeah, there are no trees or any coverings here, but if there is a tree, you might want to check the branches to make sure those are not obstructing the vertical clearance. Are the slopes. So, of course, it helps to have a tool belt.
Yeah, we packed up already.
So,
we're doing this at the end.
Yeah. So I like to start at the top and then make my way down. So I'm going to take slopes. You can only have 2% in the cross slope or the vertical or the running slope direction. So we'll take both.
How many measurements do we usually take?
So you'll want to do at least, I would say, 7 to 9.
At least 9.
Yeah.
I would do at least 9.
You'll definitely want 9. You'll want to do 3 here, and then 3 in the middle, and then 3 on that side as well.
Yeah, 3, 3,
so,
3.
Basically, you just go one way and the other direction. For parking spaces, regardless of running or cross slope, it has to be 2% in all directions. So... And this parking space is very nice and flat.
Yeah, we barely found anything wrong with it.
And then once I'm done with this, with the parking space, I'll do the access aisle. And that one can typically be done in about 6 measurements because it is smaller.
And of course, measure anywhere that catches your eye.
Yeah, if I'm in a formation right now, but if I see something that looks irregular, I'll definitely go take a measurement there and do a spot check. So this parking space is all good. Now we're gonna do the access aisle, which...
Whoops.
Sunscreen.
Dropping tools. It happens. It happens.
Also important when you're surveying. There is a slight irregularity here, but it's still under 2%.
That's what we want.
Great.
Oh yeah, talk about that strap you got there. Those don't come with those levels, huh?
No, so in order to do this quickly and without breaking your back, we have installed a guitar strap on either side of this measuring device. We use the Stabila, the 24-inch Stabila, because the DOJ uses these, but I've seen other people have different brands. So, but yeah, we just attach a guitar strap to either side, and it makes it easier so that you're not bending over the entire time.
Yeah.
So all of our slopes are great in this parking space. So the next thing we're going to be checking are the markings. So is the space outlined in blue, which it is.
Yes, it is.
The accessible or the access aisle should also be completely marked in blue. This one is missing a marking at the top of the access aisle, which isn't a huge issue, but we will recommend that they mark the top of the access aisle and the bottom. Another thing we're checking for is a 36 by 36 inch ISA.
Minimum 36
Yeah,
min.
minimum. And it should be blue on a white background. So this one's plenty big. It's 48 inches, and then the actual blue part of the ISA is 38. So
Perfect.
it looks great, and it's a nice square. So
I think there's another color combo that they can do too, but
yeah,
this is the most common and the most recommended.
yes, and yeah, and always check your code book to make sure that the applicable standard has. It'll tell you anything that you might need to be checking for. The next thing that we check for is the hatching on the access aisle. So we're making sure that the hatch marks are 36 inches wide maximum from center line to center line.
It was either that one or this one that we know was wrong.
Yeah, so this one's 36.
So that one's good.
And this one is a little bigger than greater than 36. So we would call this one out. As you see, this is about 37 and a half. You would want to measure the center line of this, which is 2.5 inches, and then mark it with something like a flag in order to take an accurate reading. So for example, 2.5.
Boom, right there.
And if I go over here and mark this, all my flags are going.
Right on 2.5. All right.
And then just
center
take
to
the
center.
measurement like this. Then you'll get an accurate reading. So this is 37.5 inches wide.
So there you go. We're over. Non-compliant.
So that's how you would mark something like that. The next item on our checklist is the 12-inch no parking marking.
Down there. So they have it.
We would want to make sure that it is legible and make sure that we have a 12-inch
Legible
character.
and viewable from the vehicular way.
Yes, so
this
it would
case,
need to be at the end of the access aisle, which this one is at the end of the access aisle, so you'd be able to see it from the vehicular way. And then
what do we got?
we have 12-inch character height.
Perfect.
and it's legible.
That's
They
compliant.
might need to paint this soon, but right now it is legible. The next item we're going to be looking at is the signage. As you see here, they have really nice signage. It's legible. It's not obstructed by stickers. This is a van space, so another thing that we have is that it's a van accessible space. This is in the circulation path technically, so it needs to be over 60 inches, which it is definitely way over 60 inches, which is here. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, it's supposed to be higher than that, right?
Is it 80?
It's 80 inches, yeah. It needs to be higher. It can't be a protruding object, so it needs to be over 80. It needs to be minimum 60 inches AFF to this portion of the sign right here. Right there. And this one definitely is
What to what portion again?
to this
To
bottom
that.
blue line. Yeah.
That's what we wanted to be at that height.
This is allowed to be under 60, but obviously if you can, put it up a little higher so that you can see it.
Yeah.
We also have a minimum fine 250 sign, and it is reflectorized.
Yes, it is.
What else do we have on our checklist? There's an ISA,
Yep.
which is great. And we have a tow-away sign, which is viewable from the accessible parking space. This is the only accessible parking space on the site, so that's a great place to put it. We
Yeah.
recommend filling this part out too, right here.
Maybe reclaimed at. Notice.
Yeah, reclaimed at.
it's
But
blank.
they do have it here. So,
Tustin Police Department.
but we will recommend that they place the Tustin PD up here.
Yeah.
This site, another thing we're checking for is the relation to accessible routes. This accessible parking space and access out directly lead to the accessible route closest to the front door. And it also does not require you to travel behind another vehicle, so that would be compliant as well. And there is a wheel stop to prevent pinch points or obstruction of the circulation path or accessible route.
Yeah. Often if there isn't one, a car will pull up and they'll block the curb and no one can get by. But they've got it.
And that's pretty much how we check our accessible parking spaces. Of course, make sure you make a checklist before you visit your site that includes all of the applicable standards for the site that you're visiting. Thank
Excellent.
you.
Excellent. Thank you, Christy.